What's good, everybody? I'm Blitz5, and in today's video I wanted to talk about Battlefield 5 being delayed. So this was just announced yesterday on August 30th 2018, and it created quite a big stir in the video game industry and actually transcended the video game industry because it made national headlines because it affected EA and the company's stock. It dropped 10% yesterday, which is actually huge in the stock market. I mean, that's like a really big drop. And just full disclosure here, I'm invested in EA, the company stock, and I'm also invested in most of the video game publishers out there, Activision, Take-Two, etc. So that's just a full disclosure. I used to work in the financial industry, so I'm kind of familiar with this stuff. I have some insight, not a lot, but I have a little bit of insight into this stuff and how that works. So this was a big deal, made national headlines, like I said. And what is going on here is that the Battlefield 5, which is known as Battlefield V, that's what they want us to call it, but it's annoying to say that, was originally scheduled to be released on October 19th, 2018. And a lot of games are coming out in October this year, and this has been delayed 1 month till November 20th, 2018. That's a Tuesday. And there's a lot of things going on here. So I want to kind of break it down because I feel like if you just look at this at the surface, it's not all the information. You have to kind of look behind this as to what's going on and how bad this is, or is it a good move? I think most of the people are looking at it negatively. It could be a good move, and I'm kind of going to break everything down now. So I think the first thing we need to think about here is, well, first of all, it's obviously bad that they're delaying it and they're switching the release date. That is an obvious, like, subjective or objective kind of negative thing that they're switching it back this late. It's almost September. We're 1 month away and they're delaying it. On top of that, we've had some news that Battlefield and EA is receiving. They're not getting a lot of pre-orders, so that's kind of putting the game in negative light. And also, EA has been struggling with a bad image for the past year, really over the past decade. But last year specifically with all of the Star Wars Battlefront issues and the DLC and all that stuff, and kind of the gambling, like lottery kind of thing where you don't even know what you're going to be unlocking, and that kind of whole thing happened in the video game industry. But really over the past 10 years or so, maybe 20 years, a lot of people have viewed EA in a negative light because of bad business practices. They've been voted like one of the worst companies to work for, like the employee satisfaction is really low, just a lot of negative things. So, but putting that aside, the video game industry kind of works in a pretty big cycle here, and traditionally most games have always come out in November. And really, when I was younger, say like 20 years ago, this was put into place because in November, say if a game was coming out November 20th, some people would initially buy it, and then a lot of kids would wait for Christmas because they knew the Christmas season is one of the biggest seasons for just most sales in most products, because it's the holiday season. People are buying a lot of electronics and stuff like that. And then so a lot of people would wait and their parents would buy it for the kids. So they knew that there would be a lot of parents or people buying it for Christmas and the holiday season. But this was when gaming was a lot different, and you actually needed to pre-order the game to get a copy. Right now, there's so many games being made, there's so many copies being made, and you can digitally download it. There's not really an issue of distribution. We've only seen this recently with like the Nintendo Switch, where after the Switch came out, you couldn't get it, and people were paying $400 or $500 for it when the retail value is only $300. But back in the day, I remember times when a game would come out, and if you didn't get it on the first day, sometimes you would have to wait a month or two. And that was kind of just how society was. People were used to waiting for things. It sucked, but you would just wait, right? Not everybody got it on the first day. And now things have changed. Distribution has changed. Like I said, digital download, Amazon, you can pretty much get anything you want. They're making extra copies. You can get it right away. You don't have to pre-order, but people do for the bonuses. And then so what happened here is that you saw companies like Call of Duty would always come out in November, and then other companies like independent publishers or smaller publishers or different games like Borderlands and all this stuff would start coming out in October and September, because they knew that they needed to kind of get ahead of Call of Duty. That's such a big game. People say are only going to spend 60, 120, 180. People, aren't going to spend a bunch of money on games. They're going to buy 1, 2, or 3 maybe in the fall. If you have a lot of money, it's different. I'm just saying on average, I think, people will only buy a couple of games and they're going to pick and choose. So say back in the day when Call of Duty was so popular, that was like a lock. Everyone was going to buy it. But you're waiting, say over the summer, there hasn't been a lot of video games. And if a game comes out in September, that might pique your interest because you need to wait 2 months for Call of Duty. So that kind of strategy was put into place. But then after years of that happening, then that's why also, just a little tangent, that games come out in like March. That's like the other video game cycle now in February. And then we saw like Overwatch and Battleborn. A lot of games come out in like May or what was it, like May, June, that's kind of like a thing now. And then usually in the summer, it's very quiet, but usually like the fall is really popular. And then after the holiday season, again, people are probably maybe burnt out by Call of Duty, and then games come out again in the late winter, spring. So then now you see other games are like, why are we doing this? Why are we waiting until November? It doesn't really matter. The holiday season doesn't really affect us as much because of like the availability, and people just want stuff right away. And also after the summer, I think people like want to, everyone's outside in the summer. People are playing video games less. So then in the fall, people want to be like the first game that people are going to be buying. So now you see big publishers like Activision and EA releasing their games in October. And this is huge because Call of Duty's always come out in November. So this year they went ahead of the game, and they announced that they're coming out on October 12th, which was like way earlier than every other game. And that they have kind of a little bit of an advantage here because Activision really has the deepest pockets. They have like the most money out of any publisher, and they've also been working on these Call of Duty games. They start them 3 years in advance, right? So they work on these games. That's why they rotate different publishers between Treyarch, or different studios between Treyarch, Sledgehammer Games, Infinity Ward, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they kind of have a little bit of an advantage here because they can do that. And they even beat Red Dead out. So Red Dead is coming out October 26th. Black Ops is October 12th. And Battlefield was supposed to be in the middle there. So October is a really, really, really busy month. If you look at it now, this seems like this used to be the old November. But now the other big hitters, there's a lot of games coming out in October and November. I'm just highlighting the really big ones that I recognize. So in October, on top of Black Ops and Red Dead, and it was supposed to be Battlefield, we have Forza coming out, we have Super Mario Party coming out, we have Mega Man 11 coming out, we have a new Assassin's Creed coming out, and even though I've never played these games, I know they're a big market for them. The WWE Wrestling 19 game is coming out, and another version of Soul Calibur, which has kind of been a dormant series for a while, and there might be like a lot of old school fans like myself that are buying that game, coming out in October. So that's a really, really busy October. And then you look at November, most of these games would usually come out in November. The biggest, heaviest hitters that I saw for November, I'm sure there's a lot of gaming fans who play independent games and stuff, so I'm just generalizing here. But the biggest titles that I saw for November are Pokemon Let's Go, Fallout 76, and Hitman 2. And then a lot of other games are coming out in December. So to me, if you just look at this from like a competitive standpoint, that coming out in November is a little less busy. But really, like I said, because people only usually pick a couple games during the holiday season or the fall season, people might have already spent all their money in October, and there might not be any left for November. So you can look at this either way. There's less competition in November, but people might have already spent their allotted money for the fall in October. So it's really hard to say here. And obviously there's going to be dedicated fans to the series that are going to buy either way. But I think this is what you kind of need to look at with what the company is doing. And they really do look at this stuff with the release dates and all that kind of thing. And honestly, in all honesty, I think it's a little bit better for me. I don't like buying 2 FPS games at the same time. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way. So to me, this actually makes it more palatable to me to purchase this as a customer, because I'm going to get Call of Duty on October 12th. I'm going to play it for over a month, and then Battlefield 5 is going to come out. And if I feel like spending $60, I feel like, I've had a month to kind of digest Call of Duty. If I'm not really enjoying it, or I want a different change of pace, then I can buy Battlefield 5. So this could end up helping them a little bit. And if they come out with more stuff or more information and people are really digging it, or people really hate on Call of Duty, which has been happening recently, this could help them kind of give a leg up and be kind of like the reverse of what people thought. Obviously, the odds of this happening are probably more against EA in Battlefield, as it being kind of a failure this year. But I'm just saying, I think you have to look at it from both angles, and I didn't really see anybody presenting this as a thing. And this is huge. Companies really do a lot of research. They put a lot of thought into this, and they have, it affects their stock a lot because they generate revenue on a quarterly basis every 3 months, and they kind of plan this out to where this is usually their biggest quarter anyway. So there's a lot of pressure on the gaming industry for this quarter to be very big, and they try to carefully select how this stuff is going to work. So I just wanted to bring it up. I thought this was kind of interesting, and just as an FYI, the Battlefield beta is coming out on September 6th, which I haven't even been thinking about Battlefield, which is probably a bad thing. I really enjoyed the Call of Duty beta, and I haven't even been watching Battlefield video. So I don't know. That's not a really good sign because I dig the franchise, but it's not really a good sign. And, you know, going back to World War II, they got screwed because Call of Duty went there. So it looks like the stars are kind of aligned for Battlefield and EA to have a bad fall, but we'll see what actually ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know what you guys are pre-ordering or plan on buying this fall. This is like the big season. I call it hashtag fight for the fall. I'll throw down that hashtag. I'm trying to get it going because I really think that this is such an interesting thing because I like the marketing and business side of video games a little bit. It's messed up industry, but you know, I love video games and I like it. I just wish that it was a little bit better, but that's a story for another time. So anyways, thank you all for watching. I'm Blitz5 and peace out.